ditched in silence. The minute the Harris family pulled up to their new home on Ashwood Lane, the air seemed to hold its breath. The house, a charming 2-story Victorian with blue shutters and a wraparound porch, stood like a painting in a frame of thick oak trees. To most, it was picturesque. To others, it was too still, too perfect. Melanie Harris stepped out first, cradling their youngest Lily on her hip. Her husband, Tom, wrestled with boxes in the back of the U-Haul, while their 10-year-old son, Ben, stood frozen at the gate. "Mum, someone's watching us," Ben said quietly. Melanie looked around and saw nothing but trees and the flutter of curtains from across the street. From the house, directly opposite, an older woman stepped out onto her porch. Dressed in a faded grey dress with wild silver hair and skin like dry parchment, she waved slowly with a stiff smile. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she called out. Her voice was crackled, like old vinyl. Melanie waved back politely. "Thank you." The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Ellison, a neighbor who'd lived on Ashwood Lane for over 40 years. "Made you a little something to welcome you all properly," she said, hobbling across the street with a wrapped package. It was a doll, hand-stitched, with a porcelain face and eyes that gleamed glassy and lifelike. Its mouth was sewn shut with coarse black thread. "A housewarming gift," she said, almost reverently. "She doesn't speak much, keeps to herself." Melanie accepted it with a strained smile, and Ben immediately tugged on her shirt. "Mum, I don't want that thing in the house." "It's just a doll," she whispered, though the pit in her stomach begged to differ. That night, the house creaked more than usual. Every floorboard seemed to whimper under invisible weight. The wind howled, but never touched the trees. Shadows twisted unnaturally in corners, like they were watching. And somewhere just beyond sleep, Melanie heard a tiny dragging sound across the hardwood floor, slow, measured, like ceramic toes being pulled across wood. She bolted upright, heart pounding. Tom snored beside her. Down the hall, the doll sat propped on Lily's dresser, but its head was turned. It had been facing forward when she put it there. Now it stared at the crib. Over the next few days, the unease grew. Objects moved just enough to be noticed, but never explained. Doors clicked locked behind them. Lights flickered and died in perfect rhythm. Lily cried without reason when near the doll, and Ben refused to sleep unless it was locked in the basement. Even then, he would shiver. Melanie tried to dismiss it. New house, old nerves. But then Ben came into her room one night, pale and shaking. She whispered to me. I heard her. She said, "She took my mouth. I want yours." They found scratch marks behind Lily's crib. Not claw marks, but symbols, etched into the wood in jagged spirals and lines. Tom initially blamed the movers, until they saw the exact same markings. She whispered to me. I heard her. She said, "She took my mouth. I want yours." They found scratch marks behind Lily's crib. Not claw marks, but symbols, etched into the wood in jagged spirals and lines. Tom initially blamed the movers, until they saw the exact same markings inside their bedroom closet, then behind every mirror. Melanie called a local historian, desperate for answers. The man arrived reluctantly, his eyes widening when he saw the carvings. This is old binding magic," he whispered. "Witchcraft, very old, to trap something or someone. Dolls were often vessels, not toys. Sometimes prisons." That night, Melanie woke up choking. Her throat burned as if strangled. She couldn't scream. When she scrambled to the mirror, her voice returned, but not before she saw a faint red thread tied tight around her neck, like an invisible noose. The doll was gone from Lily's room. They searched the house, top to bottom, every closet, every cabinet, but it was Ben who found it. "It was under my bed," he said, holding it at arm's length. Its mouth was no longer stitched shut, and now its lips were curled into a grin. Its eyes glistened with something that looked like moisture. They burned it that night, wrapped in a pillowcase, doused in lighter fluid. They watched it scream silently as it curled into blackened ash. The air smelled like scorched fabric and something metallic. Silence fell. Peace returned until 2 nights later. Ben went missing. His bedroom window was cracked open, even though they kept it locked. His sheets were twisted on the floor. The only thing left behind was a smear of red thread on the window ledge. They searched the neighborhood. Police canvassed the area. Dogs combed the woods. Nothing. Then a package arrived on their porch. No return address. Inside was a doll, newly stitched, its mouth sewn shut, its eyes unmistakably Ben's. Melanie screamed until her voice cracked. Tom tore through the house, ripping down mirrors, kicking through walls, tearing up floorboards. They found a hidden crawl space beneath the house, behind the water heater. It reeked of mildew and something ancient, sour. Inside were dolls, dozens, hundreds. Some crumbled with age, their limbs brittle as autumn leaves. Others, eerily lifelike, frozen in expressions of horror. And each one had their mouth sewn shut. Each one wore a tag with a name: Marjorie, Samuel, Teresa, Ruth, Ben. They moved out the next morning, fled, more accurately, left everything behind, never looked back. But one day, years later, Melanie received an envelope, yellowed, sealed with brittle wax. No return address. Inside, a photograph, a new family, smiling, standing proudly in front of the old Victorian. On the porch stood Mrs. Ellison, unchanged, her hair no grayer, her skin no older. Behind her, in the upstairs window, was a doll with Melanie's eyes, and this time the doll's mouth was wide open. Mid-scream, its hands pressed against the glass, like it was begging to get out.